In this video, we're going to cover the basics of instruments in the operating room. Alrighty, so in front of me, I have a couple different pickups, and that's kind of the term that they use. But each of them has a different name. So let me get started here. This one's common in surgeries that involve very thick ligaments and structures, maybe like orthopedic surgery. You're trying to grab something very tough. I mean, look at those teeth. They're pretty big, right? They're not really going to be used for skin closure, so I'm going to put these aside. The next common type of pickup is called the DeBakey forceps. As you can see, there's very small teeth, and they're really to grab anything inside of the body that is not skin. Because if you think about it, if I were to grab my skin like this, notice it kind of leaves some marks, right? And we don't really want that whenever you're trying to close up skin. Whenever you're grabbing the skin, however, you want to grab something like an AdSense. You see how there's like very small teeth, because all that force is kind of concentrated in that small point. So instead of creating a large area with bite marks or whatever, it's just a small concentrated area. It allows you to grip the skin a little bit easier. And finally, you got these are called Addison Browns. All right, so the brown part of the name, just think of it like being a DeBakey, but it looks like an AdSense. Very weird nomenclature, but that's kind of the idea. You always want to grab these like if it were a pencil, right? And you always want to grab it on the non-dominant hand, because on the dominant hand, you're going to be holding other instruments like needle drivers, which is my next talking point. Okay, so in front of me, I have different types of sort of grasping instruments that you're going to be using to either grab the needle or maybe grab some tissue. I do want to point out, so these right here with the curved end, they're very small. These are called mosquitoes. They're not used to grab a needle like this, right? Like you would not do something like this to pass suture. These are really just to grab tissue and kind of move it out of the way. So if you have to protect the structure here, you can maybe loop it like that. It clasps, you move things out of the way, you grab things, right? They're not really used for needles. So I'm going to put these aside, the mosquitoes. These sorts of needle drivers are probably going to come in the kit. They're very, I don't know. I don't like these. They're not fun to work with because they're kind of stiff, right? They're just the most basic needle drivers, and they're going to come in basically the laceration kits inside the emergency department. They're just cheap needle drivers. These are the nicer ones, right? And these I got on Amazon separately, and if you're gonna practice, I advise you to get some with the gold tips because they open a lot smoother, right? And the name of the game is that you want to do a lot of repetitions. And the repetitions, you want to make sure that you're not straining your hands too much. So something like this is gonna run you back about $9, but highly worth it. And these are gonna be the 6-inch. So these are smaller, right? These are gonna be the 4-inch version. They're kind of small. 6-inch is perfect for skin closures and things like that. These are going to be the next biggest size, 8-inch. And these I've seen used inside of the abdomen. Maybe you're trying to close something and you need, it's kind of deep in there. But other than that, I think the most bang for your buck is going to come with a 6-inch needle driver that you can use because it's so versatile. And you can use your index finger here to stabilize. As this one, you see, like, it's not the same. Like, you want something like this that fits in your hand very nicely. In this one, there's a lot of different names for these sort of curved clamps, and as they start getting bigger, they have different names associated with them. So mosquitoes, you got some called the cryos, you got some called the tonsils, which are a little bit longer, but it's the same idea. They're just like curved hemostats used to grasp tissue. Finally, I got some here. These are called the Castro Viejos, okay? And they're really used for very fine microsurgery, even if you're working underneath the microscope, because it basically allows you to pass suture by simply rotating your wrist. Instead of having to do this whole movement, now you're using finer muscles distally down the arm and the hand to essentially pass. I mean, look, so I can just twist my hand and pass the needle right through, which is pretty amazing. And the locking mechanism is very simple. So you just kind of locks in there, and then you just go further to sort of unlock it. These you can invest in, but they're not really mandatory. The one that I would recommend you invest in will probably be a 6-inch pair of needle drivers called the Mayo needle drivers. You can get some debate keys, but honestly, the Asim forceps are gonna come in your kit. Or they're good. I mean, they're gonna work very well, and this is where you're gonna be using mostly in the OR as a student. So it's up to you whether or not you want to invest in some debate keys. Needle drivers, you want to hold, okay, like this configuration here. So index finger goes up here, thumb is going to go in one of these holes, okay, and your middle finger is going to stabilize right here, right? So it's going to help you with the control. Your ring finger is going to go in the other hole, and then I guess your pinky just floats around. So this is the way that you first learn how to hold a needle driver. With practice, you can start moving fingers at the hole here. So you can maybe start off like this. So maybe it's like half of a palming technique. You can also do something like this, where now you're only putting your finger in a thumb. As you start to get more comfortable, essentially you're gonna get to a point where you can palm it. And this is kind of the technique that I use. I've seen people use something like this, which also works, but I find it the most comfortable whenever I'm working like this, because I can just open, I can pass my needle, unlock, and reload. The reason why I palm it is because it's really hard to get certain angles if you have your fingers in the hole. See, I'm kind of limited in how much I can sort of pronate here. But if I'm palming it, I can really get all sorts of angles into tissues and better. It's more efficient, and surgery is all about efficiency. Another instrument I want to talk about here are scissors. So they all come in all sorts and shapes and sizes, as you can see here, and they have different functions, okay? So this one's going to come in your suture kit. It's like very small. It's just a cut suture. Not too exciting. I mean, there's nothing to it, this one. But you always want to grab it like this, right? Remember, ring finger in this hole, thumb in this hole, and then middle finger here, and index to stabilize. Whenever you're cutting something, you want to make sure that whatever, usually they're going to be like this. So you're going to have a little bit of a screw. Whenever you're cutting something, you want that screw facing up towards the ceiling, okay? In this case, it doesn't really have one, but you want to hold it like that and cut your suture. These right here are called the Mayos. In the Mayos, there's two types. I only have the curved type, but there's also straight. The straight Mayos typically used for suture, right? It's like the classic suture knife. But this curved one is really good for cutting into very thick and dense tissue, okay? As opposed to this one's called the Metzenbaum scissors, and it comes in all sorts of sizes. This one's pretty long, but it's really used for cutting finer tissue. So maybe let's talk about a C-section, right? They want to cut the peritoneum, so they can use a curved Mayo. And the curve really allows you to see what you're cutting, because otherwise it's going to be sort of straight on and it's going to obstruct the view. Let me give you an example of how to use scissors to cut suture. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this one. Okay, so let's say a surgeon is working here and they're throwing knots and you're getting ready to okay, so they ask you, if you want someone to cut your suture, you're going to bring it up like this. And that says, hey, cut both ends. Otherwise, maybe I want to cut just the tail, in which case I'm going to leave it like this. And this is going to rest downward, right? You're going to go in with your skin, with your scissors here. And you're going to slide it, very small opening, slide it all the way down. And then twist to see how much you're cutting. Typically, if the suture material slides a lot, you want to leave a bigger tail, right? But in this case, it has a lot of friction. So I'm going to cut it close to the skin and cut right there. Whenever I'm cutting, okay, I'm pushing in with my thumb because I want to create leverage. I want to do something like this where, you know what I'm saying? That way it really cuts. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of a weak cut. So push in with your thumb, pull in with your ring finger, and that creates leverage here at the tip to make sure that these two edges are nice and close together. So you can cut whatever you want at that point. And you only need to cut it once. You don't need to go back in to keep trying to cut it. So again, you're gonna go in, twist, and cut, just like that.